In October 2019, a series of shocking events unfolded in Cape Coral, Florida, leaving 2 women dead and a community in fear. The man responsible for these heinous crimes would soon become known as the Deadpool Killer, not for his actions, but because of an eerie coincidence. His real name was Wade Wilson, the same as the famous Marvel anti-hero. But this isn't a story of fictional characters or comic book plots. It's a chilling true crime case involving real people, real lives, and real consequences. Today we're diving deep into the tragic events surrounding Wade Wilson, the victims he left behind, and the investigation that ultimately brought him to justice. In this video, we'll explore who Wade Wilson was, how he came to be involved with his victims, and the meticulous police work that led to his capture. By the end, you'll have a clear understanding of how this case unfolded and the impact it had on those who lived through it. Before we dive into today's case, if you're a fan of true crime and love exploring the most fascinating and mysterious stories, make sure to hit that button and subscribe to the channel. By subscribing, you'll be the first to know when we drop new content, and it really helps us bring more in-depth investigations your way. Don't forget to tap the notification bell so you never miss an update. Now let's get into today's story. Wade Wilson wasn't always known as the Deadpool Killer. Before his name became infamous, he was just another man living in Florida, navigating life with a troubled past. Born and raised in the state, Wilson's early years were marked by a series of challenges that seemed to set the stage for the man he would become. Little is known about Wilson's childhood, but as he grew older, he became known to law enforcement. His criminal record, though not extensive, hinted at a man struggling with issues beneath the surface, perhaps anger, perhaps a sense of powerlessness. These early encounters with the law might have been warning signs, but they were not enough to predict the brutal crimes he would eventually commit. Wade Wilson's life took a darker turn when he became romantically involved with 2 women, Christine Melton and Diane Ruiz. These relationships seemed to be typical at first, but they were far from it. Wilson's connection to these women would ultimately lead to their tragic deaths. Christine Melton was the first of Wilson's victims. She and Wilson had a brief relationship, one that ended in the most horrific way imaginable. Diane Ruiz, the second victim, was also romantically linked to Wilson. Her disappearance and subsequent murder shocked those who knew her, especially when her connection to Wilson became clear. These relationships, however brief, were enough to entangle the lives of these women with a man who would soon be revealed as a dangerous predator. Wade Wilson wasn't just another man in their lives, he was the one who would end them. Understanding his background and his connections to Christine and Diane is crucial to understanding the dark path that led to the crimes that shook Cape Coral to its core. Christine Melton and Diane Ruiz were more than just names in the headlines. They were daughters, friends, and members of the Cape Coral community whose lives were tragically cut short. Christine Melton was a 35-year-old woman with a kind heart and a love for life. She had been through her share of hardships, but was trying to find her footing again. Christine met Wade Wilson during a vulnerable time in her life. Their relationship, though brief, would have dire consequences. On October 7, 2019, Christine was found dead in her apartment. The cause of death was determined to be strangulation, and the investigation quickly revealed signs of a struggle. Christine's family and friends were devastated, unable to comprehend how her life had ended so violently. Diane Ruiz was another woman whose path crossed with Wade Wilson's. At 43 years old, Diane was a beloved member of her community, known for her warm personality and caring nature. Like Christine, Diane had been romantically involved with Wilson, and this connection would lead to her untimely death. Diane was reported missing on October 7, 2019, the same day Christine's body was discovered. For 2 agonizing days, her loved ones searched desperately for her, hoping for her safe return. But on October 9th, Diane's body was found in a wooded area, and like Christine, she had been strangled. Both Christine and Diane were connected by their relationships with Wilson, relationships that would end in unimaginable tragedy. These women weren't just statistics, they were individuals with their own stories, dreams, and aspirations. Their lives were stolen from them by a man they trusted, and their deaths sent shockwaves through their families, friends, and the entire Cape Coral community. As we delve deeper into the events that led to their deaths, it's important to remember who Christine Melton and Diane Ruiz were and the void their loss left behind. Their stories are central to understanding the gravity of this case and the profound impact it had on those who knew and loved them. The murders of Christine Melton and Diane Ruiz were not random acts of violence. They were calculated and brutal, carried out by someone they both knew and trusted. Wade Wilson, the man they had both been romantically involved with, turned out to be the person responsible for their untimely deaths. The events leading to Christine Melton's murder began in early October 2019. Christine and Wilson had recently ended their brief relationship, and it's believed that Wilson couldn't handle the rejection. On October 7, 2019, Christine was found dead in her apartment. The scene was disturbing. There were clear signs of a struggle, and the cause of death was identified as strangulation. Investigators quickly began piecing together the last moments of Christine's life, discovering that Wilson had been the last person to see her alive. Diane Ruiz, Wilson's second victim, went missing the same day Christine's body was found. Diane and Wilson had also been involved in a relationship that had recently ended. On the morning of October 7th, Diane was seen by her co-workers at a local grocery store where she worked, but by the afternoon she had vanished. For 2 days, her friends and family feared the worst. On October 9th, their fears were confirmed when Diane's body was discovered in a wooded area not far from where she lived. Like Christine, Diane had been strangled, and the similarities in their deaths pointed directly to Wilson. The method in which Wilson committed these murders was chilling. Both women were strangled, a method that suggests a desire for control and domination over his victims. The personal nature of these crimes indicated that they were not spur-of-the-moment acts, but rather premeditated murders driven by anger and a need to assert power over these women who had rejected him. The link between the two murders was undeniable. Investigators found that Wilson had been involved with both women and that he was the last person to have seen each of them before their deaths. This connection, coupled with forensic evidence, would soon lead to his arrest. But before he could be taken into custody, Wilson would make one final attempt to evade justice, leading to a tense standoff with police. Understanding the way these crimes were committed and the motivations behind them is crucial in grasping the full scope of Wade Wilson's brutality. These were not random acts, but calculated moves by a man who felt he had lost control and chose to take it back in the most violent way possible. As the investigation into the deaths of Christine Melton and Diane Ruiz unfolded, law enforcement quickly honed in on Wade Wilson as the prime suspect. The connection between Wilson and both victims was undeniable, and detectives knew they were dealing with a dangerous individual who had already claimed 2 lives. The police began their investigation by interviewing friends, family members, and anyone who had interacted with Christine and Diane in the days leading up to their deaths. It didn't take long for Wade Wilson's name to surface as a person of interest. Witnesses reported seeing Wilson with both women shortly before their deaths, and surveillance footage from Christine's apartment complex showed Wilson entering and leaving her building around the time of her murder. With these leads, investigators obtained a warrant to search Wilson's residence. Inside, they found evidence linking him to both murders, including items that had belonged to Christine and Diane. Forensic analysis would later confirm that Wilson's DNA was present at both crime scenes, further solidifying the case against him. But before the police could arrest him, Wilson made one last attempt to avoid capture. On October 9, 2019, the day Diane Ruiz's body was discovered, Wilson barricaded himself inside a residence, leading to a tense standoff with law enforcement. For hours, negotiators attempted to persuade Wilson to surrender peacefully, but he refused to comply. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Wilson was taken into custody without any further violence. Once in custody, Wade Wilson was formally charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder. The charges were based on the overwhelming evidence against him, evidence that painted a clear picture of a man who had taken the lives of 2 women in cold blood. The case against Wilson was strong, and as the legal proceedings began, it became clear that justice would be served. The thorough and diligent work of the investigators played a crucial role in bringing Wade Wilson to justice. Their ability to piece together the evidence, connect the dots between the victims and the suspect, and execute a successful arrest prevented Wilson from potentially harming anyone else. The police investigation not only brought a killer to justice, but also provided some measure of closure for the families of Christine Melton and Diane Ruiz. While nothing could undo the tragedy that had occurred, the relentless pursuit of the truth ensured that Wilson would be held accountable for his actions. The trial of Wade Wilson was a pivotal moment in the pursuit of justice for Christine Melton and Diane Ruiz. With overwhelming evidence against him, the prosecution's case was strong, and the trial would soon reveal the full extent of Wilson's brutality. As the court proceedings began, the prosecution meticulously laid out the case against Wilson. They presented the forensic evidence that placed Wilson at both crime scenes, DNA found on the victims and at their residences, as well as the items recovered from Wilson's home. The prosecution also brought forward witness testimonies, including those who had seen Wilson with Christine and Diane in the days leading up to their deaths. Surveillance footage showing Wilson's movements further cemented his involvement. The defense attempted to challenge the evidence, suggesting alternative theories and questioning the reliability of the forensic findings. But the weight of the evidence against Wilson was too great. The jury listened intently as the prosecution presented a compelling narrative of a man who couldn't handle rejection and resorted to violence to regain control. As the trial progressed, it became increasingly clear that Wilson was guilty. The jury didn't take long to reach a verdict. Wade Wilson was found guilty of 2 counts of second-degree murder. The conviction brought a sense of relief to the families of Christine Melton and Diane Ruiz, who had endured months of anguish and uncertainty. During the sentencing phase, the judge didn't mince words. Wilson's actions had been cruel, calculated, and without remorse. The court sentenced him to life in prison, ensuring that he would never again pose a threat to society. For the families of the victims, the sentence was a measure of justice, though it could never fully heal the wounds left by the loss of their loved ones. The public and media reaction to the trial and conviction was one of outrage and sadness. The case had gripped the community, and many were relieved to see Wilson brought to justice. But there was also a profound sense of sorrow for the lives that had been lost and the families that had been shattered. The trial of Wade Wilson served as a stark reminder of the devastating impact of domestic violence and the lengths to which some individuals will go when their sense of control is threatened. It was a case that highlighted the importance of justice and the need to protect those who find themselves in dangerous relationships. In the end, Wade Wilson was held accountable for his actions, and the community could begin to heal. But the memories of Christine Melton and Diane Ruiz would live on, serving as a poignant reminder of the lives that were lost and the justice that was ultimately served. The aftermath of Wade Wilson's conviction left a lasting impact on the Cape Coral community and beyond. The loss of Christine Melton and Diane Ruiz was deeply felt by their families, friends, and all who knew them. While the conviction of their killer brought a sense of justice, it also underscored the harsh reality of domestic violence and the tragic consequences it can bring. For the families of Christine and Diane, the trial's conclusion marked the end of a painful chapter. but it didn't erase the grief or the memories of their loved ones. The void left by their deaths would never be filled, and the community, too, grappled with the shock of losing two of its members in such a brutal manner. Support networks and counseling services played a crucial role in helping those affected by the tragedy begin the healing process. The case also served as a wake-up call, shining a spotlight on the dangers of abusive relationships and the importance of recognizing the signs of potential violence. Advocacy groups used the case to raise awareness about domestic violence, urging people to take action if they or someone they know might be at risk. The story of Christine and Diane became a powerful reminder of the need for vigilance and support in preventing similar tragedies. Reflecting on this case, one cannot help but think about the lessons it imparts. The importance of speaking out, of seeking help, and of supporting those who may be in danger cannot be overstated. While justice was served in the courtroom, the ultimate goal is to prevent such violence from happening in the first place. The legacy of Christine Melton and Diane Ruiz lives on, not just in the memories of those who loved them, but in the ongoing efforts to combat domestic violence and protect those at risk. Their stories remind us of the preciousness of life and the devastating consequences when that life is taken too soon. As we conclude this exploration of the Wade Wilson case, we're left with a sobering reminder of the fragility of safety and the importance of justice. While the community may begin to heal, the lessons learned from this tragedy will continue to resonate, urging us all to be more aware, more compassionate, and more proactive in the face of potential danger. As we come to the end of this story, it's important to reflect on the journey we've taken through the tragic events surrounding Wade Wilson, the man known as the Deadpool Killer. This case is a stark reminder of the real-world consequences of violence and the lives it can shatter. We've explored the lives of Christine Melton and Diane Ruiz, two women whose futures were cruelly stolen by a man they once trusted. We've followed the meticulous work of law enforcement as they connected the dots and brought Wilson to justice. And we've seen how the legal system played its role in ensuring that Wilson would never again harm another person. But beyond the facts and the courtroom drama, this case leaves us with a deeper message. It's a reminder of the importance of vigilance and support for those who may be in danger. It's a call to action for communities to come together to protect one another and to speak out against violence in all its forms. In telling this story, we honor the memories of Christine and Diane. We acknowledge the pain endured by their families and friends, and we recognize the strength it takes to seek justice in the face of such overwhelming loss. Their stories serve as a beacon, urging us all to pay attention, to intervene when necessary, and to ensure that those who are most vulnerable are never left to face their struggles alone. As you reflect on this case, consider how you can make a difference in your own community. Whether it's through supporting local organizations, being there for a friend in need, or simply staying informed, every action counts. Together we can create a world where stories like this one are less common, and where justice prevails, not just in the courtroom, but in the everyday lives of people everywhere. Thank you for joining us in this exploration of the Wade Wilson case. If this video resonated with you, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth true crime stories and discussions. Your engagement helps us continue to bring these stories to light and raise awareness about the issues that matter. We encourage you to leave your thoughts in the comments below. Whether it's your reaction to the case, any questions you might have, or your own experiences with similar issues. Let's keep the conversation going because every voice matters. Until next time, stay safe, stay aware, and take care of each other.